And we're back with our continuing coverage of the breaking news from Minnesota. At this time in Brooklyn Park, northwest in Minneapolis, there is a lockdown, a shelter-in-place order for the residents of Brooklyn Park as police, the FBI, multiple agencies are on an all-hands-on-deck manhunt for a suspect armed and dangerous who is dressed as a police officer, impersonating a police officer, is somewhere in the community. They are asking individuals to not open the door to a single police officer that arrived that could be knocking on your door. They say that legitimate police officers will be arriving in pairs, and that if you see somebody suspicious or are concerned, do not hesitate and call 911 in what is a a very dangerous situation in Brooklyn Park. And just to recap, in the last hour, we have learned that this suspect is wanted for shooting and killing the former House Speaker, Democrat Melissa Hortman, and also killing her husband in a targeted, politically motivated assassination, according to Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. This individual also shot and gravely wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. The police told us unbelievably that State Senator Hoffman and his wife Yvette were shot at 2 o'clock this morning at their home when an individual dressed as a police officer arrived in a police vehicle, shot and killed them. And then police, proactively trying to protect other politicians, arrived at the home of Melissa Hortman to find that the suspect engaged in fire with police officers. But sadly, Melissa Hortman and her husband were found dead in the home, and the suspect is now on the run. Brooklyn Park, again, in a shelter in place. Now let's bring in former FBI Supervisory Agent Jack Jupin and former Las Vegas police officer Randy Sutton and retired NYPD Lieutenant Joe Cardinale. Thank you all for being here. Let's start off with Joe. Joe, your thoughts right now, ongoing manhunt. What comes first to your mind about just the uncharted territory we're in and what investigators are doing?
Well, right now, the manhunt, as you said, is on its way. It's a shelter in place. Everybody should take that very seriously, and I'm sure the tips will be coming in. They'll have their forces along the lines there of the neighborhood. That this person, I'm sure he's somewhat identified to a degree of where his whereabouts could be and where they should be focusing their efforts is, right on that area. So I think this politically motivated, these incidents are going to be reoccurring as long as this rhetoric keeps up between politicians. I just can't see it getting any less right now, especially in a state with Tim Walz.
And I guess to that point, Jack, I'd imagine that all of you, as experienced as you are, that this is a scenario that you must have thought of, must have prepared for. Not only politically motivated assassination attempts, but also individuals who want to use law enforcement uniforms to try to commit their murders. Jack, can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is our worst fear. And, I worked with Joe's office 1,000 times, and we've talked about this. I've talked with a lot of the NYPD about this, and New Jersey State Police about this, the FBI. This is our biggest fear. Someone dresses like one of us and shows up at somebody's house and actually assassinates them, which is exactly what happened here. This is a horrible situation. As Joe had mentioned, the FBI, the local state, everybody is on this, and they're going to be all over it until we find this individual. And it's just a horrible situation. But again, our worst nightmares, come true when someone dresses as law enforcement. And like you have already said to all your viewers, if one police officer shows up at your house, that's not normal. Law enforcement normally shows up in pairs. So it's the kind of thing that, again, 2 o'clock in the morning, problem. That is a problem. People don't understand that, you're confused, you're waking up in the middle of the night. That's a problem. But hopefully, we get this individual into custody as soon as possible and we move on. But it's going to be a problem until we get this guy in custody. And as we already talked about, he engaged with law enforcement already in a firefight, and hopefully we're on his trail.
Randy, the fact that this individual obviously thought about this, planned this out, well armed, managed to survive said firefight and managed to get away. That here adds another layer of not only expertise, but a real problem here when you're talking about this being in a residential area. I know, Randy, you had talked about the idea of the concern being potentially a hostage situation. Is it enough here? Do you think that they have already started going door to door? And then what's the next step from there? You expand the perimeter? What do you do?
Yeah, I do believe that they will be going door to door. One of the things that the investigative tools that they're going to be utilizing is looking for any neighborhood security cameras to try and track this individual where he might have gone. Now, remember that there was an actual firefight between the real police and this individual. Since he was wearing a police uniform, it also sounded like he was wearing an exterior vest, which would be possibly a ballistic vest. He might have been hit during that firefight, but he might have been protected by that vest. This is something that, at the end of the day, when he is captured, he will be captured, that this is something that they'll be looking at as well. There will be a door-to-door search. There is no doubt at this point. And this type of search takes an enormous amount of manpower and an enormous amount of backup from all the individual agencies that are involved in this. It's highly dangerous. This individual has shown that he will fire upon officers, and the officers have to use extreme caution because this will very possibly end in a firefight.
I want to just go around the horn with all three of you. Just final thoughts, about 15, 20 seconds for each of you, going into what is a very dangerous manhunt right now. We'll start off with you, Joe.
I have to tell you that the premeditation on this individual's, part is the scariest part here. The fact that he takes the time to get the uniform, to go to this house, to, take care of it, to get into a firefight with the officers. This is a very, as Randy said, very dangerous individual. So I'm sure he'll be in custody sooner than later. But, this door-to-door is going to be important. And then you have to see later on who else may be tied in with this and where else this goes, where the investigation leads you. But they have to get this person in custody right away.
Jack.
I echo our other guests. Exactly right. They're going to go door to door, and we don't know if is he a lone wolf? Is he not a lone wolf? Hopefully he is, and we get him in custody ASAP.
And Randy?
Done.
First of all, two things I want to say. One is this is an incredibly evil situation. This individual is capable of anything. This is pure evil at play. And the other thing that I want to say is the officer who made the preemptive decision is an amazing police officer. Great job.
Randy, Jack, and Joe, thank you for your expertise.